RJ, RJ, Sember, Sember.
So just capital R, capital J.
Yep.
No periods or anything.
No,
Okay.
that's it.
And RJ, how old are you?
22 years old.
22 years old. Talk to me first, right now, in this moment. How are you feeling? Physically, what's going on with you?
Physically pretty terrible. Running on about 2 hours of sleep. Headache, aches and pains, upset stomach. Pretty much like the flu.
When was the last time you used?
About 2 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's in your mind right now as far as stopping? Is it your hope that you don't use ever again? You know, you've done this a few times, many times.
Yeah, this
So-
is probably about my 5th time trying to go through this. Right now, I just want to feel better. I mean, initially with where I'm at in the withdrawal phases of it, physically I just want to feel better.
And how would you normally make yourself feel better?
In the past, it's been through detox programs, medications, which I'm trying to do right now. Sometimes you just have to cold turkey and get through it, push through it.
Talk to me about the first time you ever used a drug. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I was probably about 13 years old.
Young.
Yeah, just smoking marijuana.
With friends?
Yeah,
Who'd you get it from?
an older brother of the friends.
And did that start marijuana use? Like, was it, or did you wait a while before you tried it again?
That was an isolated incident at the time.
13 is pretty typical, though. It's scary to say, but
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, that's about 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. I think I was in 7th grade, but
what came next?
alcohol.
When was that?
About freshman year, maybe 8th grade too.
A lot of alcohol?
No. Again, isolated incidents. Just being a teenager at the time, you know, just trying to fit in.
When did you start having a problem? And what was it?
Senior year of high school is when it really started to get bad. By that time, I was smoking marijuana about every day. For at least I remember it was laying on a couch at school and thinking that it's been a good 3-month period since I had not smoked or done anything. Drinking every weekend. I was doing ecstasy, and at that point is when I had started to dabble with pain pills.
And was it something you did with like a group of friends? Was it on your own?
Smoking and drinking and all that stuff, and it was with groups of friends at parties. I had never done, maybe smoke once or twice by myself, but it was all at parties. Even when I had started doing pills was with a friend. I had never sought it out by myself. It was introduced to me by a friend.
What were you like in high school? Did you do sports? Did you have activities?
Yeah,
Were you a student?
I did everything. Very, very into sports, very athletic. Even through all this that we're talking about, I maintained good grades. I had about a 3.5. I mean, I did a lot in high school. I was very active, very
What sports did
busy.
you play?
Football, and I ran track. But football was my main one.
Were you on the school team?
Oh yeah, yep, Brantford High School.
All 4 years, or?
Yes.
Wow. Graduation. What were your plans after graduation? And what was your state of mind at that point as far as using?
I hadn't really recognized that I had a problem at that point. It was still, I'm 18 years old. I'm just smoking pot and drinking like normal people do. You want graduation in itself, or just moving forward afterwards?
Did you have plans to go to college? Did you try college?
Yeah, I tried college. I had plans for the military. Um, I was going to try and do all that both. I
You
I-
did try military,
yes,
correct?
yes.
Talk to me about what happened there.
Let's see. I enlisted right out of high school, Army Infantry. I went through basic training, infantry school, all that. Came back, I was in the reserves, so I can go to school. I was also going to the University of Connecticut at the time. And then I stayed smoking pot up at school, and I failed a drug test for the Army and was given a general discharge. So
What went through your head when that happened? Were you angry? Were you upset with yourself?
I was pretty upset with myself.
No second chances there?
No. Obama was doing his cutbacks on the military and all that. But thankfully I can re-enlist, but I was upset with myself, and that was kind of when I started to realize maybe I have a problem, because I knew the dates where I had to be clean for the test, where I had to report to drill, where there could be a possible drug test, and I couldn't stop. I was just smoking pot at the time, but it was a big thing up there, and I couldn't stay away from it.
All right, so let's talk heroin. When did you first try heroin, and how did it, I guess, bloom?
Let's see. Well, it started with Percocets, OxyContin, pain pills.
Where were you getting those?
From a friend in school. It was just introduced to me, and it was pretty great the first time I tried it. I mean, compared to everything else I was doing, I'm not gonna lie.
That was great.
I mean, just the way it made me feel. It was very. I suffer from anxiety as well, so it was very relaxing for me. And I just I felt like I fit in almost. I don't know. It's just a euphoric feeling. But even then, it wasn't something that I was, oh my God, I have to have this all the time now. I did it, Percocets the one time. And then a couple weeks later, my friend put some powder out for me, and I did it, and he told me it was heroin, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, well.
Did you do it without knowing what it was?
Yeah, at first, yeah, I did. I thought it was just some pills that were crushed up.
The feeling. Do you remember it?
I don't, actually, because I blacked out that night. But I remember it was very similar to the pills.
And when did you do it again?
A couple weeks later, I did it again. And this is senior year of high school, so this was once in a while I would do it if it were available. I hadn't really become addicted yet. I mean, I was still smoking every day. I had other things that kept me occupied.
So senior year in high school, you started to dabble?
It was very experimental.
Okay.
I mean, I tried whatever. I wouldn't say no. I was very curious. I enjoyed partying. I enjoyed going out. Because even then, I went away to the Army after high school. So that was about 4 months of nothing at all.
Did you feel like you were withdrawing during that 4 months? Did you want to use?
I did. I think at times, because I mean, boot camp and training in itself is very hard, and you want a lot of things. I mean, actually, we got a 2-day pass before infantry school, and I drank on that pass with some friends. And I remember just being in the barracks and looking out at the drill sergeants smoking their cigarettes in their corner and wishing that we could, have some part of that.
Were you allowed to drink during your 2-day pass?
No.
Okay.
But, no.
So when did heroin become a problem?
Heroin became a problem about the time that I dropped out of University of Connecticut.
Which was?
Right after I got kicked out of the Army, or discharged from the Army, about January 2011.
How old are you then?
How old was I then? 18 years old?
Okay.
19 years old? 18 or 19 years old, coming on 19 years old.
And how often were you using at that point?
It started off slow with, again, with the Percocets. I was working a job down here in town, and someone said, hey, I sell them. And by that time I was self-sufficient working, I had money, and I was able to buy them. And that, it took my life over pretty quickly. Once I was able to fund this habit.
And that was pills?
That was pills, that was just pills. However, the pills then became very expensive. Very, very expensive. And I mean, heroin's about half as cheap as the pills. And when someone brought this to my attention, there wasn't really any fight that went through my mind. It was kind of like, it's essential. I didn't know the dangers of heroin, really. It was kind of a far-fetched word to me at that time. I just thought it was an opiate. It's an opiate. I didn't even like using the word heroin because I didn't think I was a heroin addict.
Did that seem bigger to you?
It did. Using the word heroin, I would just call it dope or this stuff. Using the word heroin was bigger to me.
So you were a little bit in denial.
Yeah, absolutely at first. Even using the pills, I mean, I could stop if I wanted to, I just don't want to, that kind of attitude.
You were telling yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just that attitude.
Where would you get your heroin? Is it easy to get?
It's pretty easy to get. I mean, I had, there were people around town who I knew were doing pills as well. And talking to one of them said, hey, why are you spending all that money when you can get this for half as cheap? And I tried it, and then I had the number to get it, and that was that.
Without giving specifics or names, where does an exchange happen? How does this happen?
Anywhere.
Is it happening at houses? Is it happening in parking lots? It's not happening in back alleys.
It's not the cliche, drive down the back alley and meet me, and there will be someone there. Parking lots, side of the road, in front of a house. Pretty much wherever, whatever seems fit.
Are you ever concerned about the product you're getting?
No. No, because the first, especially once you start becoming physically addicted to it, it doesn't matter.
That trumps.
It trumps whatever. There was a time where I knew that there was fentanyl in the heroin, but that just means cut down on how much we're doing because it's a lot stronger. To someone like me, that just means it's gonna last. The product will last longer because it's a lot stronger.
Talk to me about struggles with rehab. How many times have you tried to get clean? What have you done?
With rehabs, I've tried about maybe 5 times. 5 times. Yeah, that enough that you have to try and count it.
Mm-hmm. Why doesn't it work? Why do you think it works?
That's a good question. I think it doesn't work because, number one, it's such an enticing and ferocious drug that it just pulls you back. It really is. It's a monster. It's that enticing, and I know people who are alcoholics or cocaine addicts and who are opiate addicts, and unfortunately the statistics are against the opiate addicts. I don't know why, but it does something in the brain that's very enticing.
So what happens in your mind that makes you say, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to fix this? Each time.
Each time, you can feel it little by little suck the life out of you. to the point where I'm like I am now. I mean, I'm sick. I don't feel well. I'm about 2 days in withdrawal. Usually something's going to stop an addict, whether it be jail, you run out of money, you're getting threats, whatever it is. That's usually what stops someone at first. And for me, after all the 5 times, it's gotten to the point where it just sucks the life out of me, and I don't want to have to do it anymore.
So you'd like it to succeed?
I would like to succeed, yes.
Talk to me about work history. What's going on there?
It's hard to maintain a job while you're using. I mean, I had a very good job at one point a couple of years ago, but I had to get up early for it, and I was able to maintain it for months and work as a functioning addict, as some say, but it gets to the point where I can't pay the bills anymore because the only thing that matters is not feeling sick. I don't want to feel sick, so I'll spend all my money if I have to on not feeling sick, on my personal well-being, and deal with the rest later.
When was the last time you worked and what happened?
The last time I worked was last week, and I was using for about a good period of time, and I couldn't hold it together anymore.
Do you not go to work? Do you just not show up?
That, financial problems, actually stealing from work. So.
Have you ever been in legal trouble? Have
Yes.
you ever been arrested?
Yes.
For?
I was arrested for larceny, stealing, and forgery in the 3rd degree.
Trying to support your habit?
Yes.
And did you go to jail?
I did. Well, I not really. I mean,
Overnight?
Yeah,
Okay.
just get processed kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are you worried that if you were to continue using that would get...
I would absolutely end up in jail if I continue using. While that is some motivation, it's not all of it. Number one, I would hate to have to withdraw in jail where it's completely cold turkey. Number two, I just don't want to be in jail. I like my freedom, and I'd like to keep it that way.
Talk to me about friendships, the personal toll that being an addict takes on you. Do you feel that you have close friends? Do you feel alone? Do you, emotionally, how are you?
In high school and college, I had a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends. Once I started using, one by one, they just they fell away. It was either they knew what I was into and they didn't want to be a part of it, and good for them, or I was just so focused on what I had to do to get high, to feel better, that I would pay no attention to them. I wouldn't put in the effort for the friendship. It's a very selfish disease. I have to feel better now, and that's all that I care about. Which is why addicts get such a bad rep, because while we do bad things sometimes, what it does in our brain, we have no impulse control. If you had the flu and you can take this one pill to feel completely better, that's kind of what it's like.
So where are you at now? Why try to get clean now? Talk to me about, the decision that day. Is it instantaneous? Is it something you've been thinking about for a while? And what are you doing right now to try and not use again?
Well, I had been through, I've been through some attempts in the past. So I know myself when I'm starting to get bad again. And I knew that I was starting to get way off track again. Each time out, I tell myself that I can just do a couple pills here and there, but it always leads to more and more, and my tolerance builds. So this time, I knew that I was getting way off track, and I was either going to end up dead or in jail. And aside from death or jail, I mentioned how I like my freedom. When you're using heroin, you don't have any freedom. You're under complete control of the drug. I wanted to be able to live a normal life, and if you're using heroin, that's completely out of the picture.
So did you call around to get into a detox program? I mean, you're doing this right now at home.
Yeah.
On your own, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah, I called around through outpatient programs, and I got linked up with a doctor who prescribes Suboxone.
And what does that do?
Suboxone, while it blocks, it's a synthetic opiate. While it blocks the opiates from, if I were to use on it, it blocks the opiates from reaching the receptors in my brain. It also kind of tells my brain that there's something in those receptors, and it makes me not sick. It makes me feel better. It kind of tricks my brain out thinking that there's an opiate in my system, while it's really just a synthetic filling the receptors in my brain.
How long do they recommend staying on something like that?
It varies. It's objective, I guess, or subjective. Some people I know are on it for a few years. Some people a few months. What it does is it'll give me the time to build the strength I need to be able to meet the people who can help me recover. It'll give me the time to do what I have to do to make myself feel better and get stronger to fight this.
Have you started taking that?
I have not. That's why I'm in withdrawal right now, because I saw the doctor yesterday, and he told me that I have to be in a pretty good withdrawal before I can start taking it. Or else it will send me into withdrawal if I have any in my system, really.
And you go back today?
I go back today.
Are you hoping that you get it today?
I will get it today. I mean, I should get it today. And again, it'll make me feel better.
And then you're doing group therapy right now?
Yes. Yes.
Does that help?
It does. Being able to talk about how I feel and relate it to other people, it's comforting to know I'm not alone. It's comforting to know that there's other people who feel the way I do, who are fighting this as well. And it's good to just be able to talk about the way I feel. Because, I'm not happy with the decisions I make when I'm using or in active addiction. I don't like stealing. I don't like hurting my family. I don't enjoy it whatsoever. I do have a conscience. Unfortunately, it's such a powerful drug that it pushes my conscience on the back burner, and it tells me that I have to use now.
What has your addiction done to your family?
It's definitely torn all the trust apart. Definitely torn the trust, and it's just made it difficult to start to build it back. It's nuts.
You've lived at home. You've lived away. Talk to me a little bit about that.
I've lived at home. I went to Texas for treatment. I lived homeless in Texas. I've done it all. I've lived home in sober houses, on the streets, in the projects. I've done it all, and it's not easy. It's not fun. It's not something that I enjoy.
You're home now?
I'm home now.
Do you think that helps? Are you hoping it helps?
I'm hoping it helps. I mean, it's definitely comforting. While the Army taught me to survive in any circumstances, and I've had to do it on the street sometimes, I don't enjoy doing it. I can, but I don't enjoy it. I'd like to start building my life back.
If you could go back to a point in your childhood, your youth, when do you think you would need to tell yourself, don't do this? Is it when you were 13? Is it when you were 16? What would you tell?
Probably when I was closer to 15, 16, when I wanted to try and fit in and do what everyone else was doing,
What's your message to those 15-year-olds out there now, staring down this epidemic?
Just be yourself. If you know that something's wrong and that you shouldn't do it, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. Just stick true to you. You don't have to do anything to try and impress anyone. You don't. It takes a lot more to stand up and walk away than it does to try and do that just to impress someone. Just be yourself and stick true to you.
Not worth it.
It's not worth it. I thought it would make me cooler. I thought that I would get all the recognition because I was, it seemed to be when I entered high school, smoking pot and drinking was what all the popular kids did. And for some reason, especially being into sports on sports teams, I wanted that popularity. But it's definitely not worth it. I would go back and I would get my college degree and just work hard.
Have you ever overdosed? Have you ever been in the hospital?
I have. I overdosed in August of 2015 on a combination of Xanax and heroin. That's about all I can tell you.
Is that like the lowest of the lows for you? I know you went into rehab, I think it was November of last year.
Yes.
So was that kind of a turning point?
It was. Unfortunately, I know that there's the threat of that every time I use with what I'm using. With heroin, I know that threat every time I use. And again, it overrides your mind so much that I started feeling sick once I got out of the hospital, and within 24 hours I was using again. Yeah.
What are you going to do differently this time?
Honesty is very important. And I have to take all the help that's out there, that's offered. There's a lot of help out there. There could be a lot more for what's happening around the state and New England. There could be a lot more help, but there is help if you want it. And if you wanna get sober, if you put in the effort, I think it's possible.
Final thoughts, things you think are important to share.
Don't be ashamed of this problem. It's happening to a lot of people. There's a majority of people who suffer from mental diseases and addiction, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Unfortunately, it's a problem in this country, and the only way to stop it is by speaking up and saying something. I wish I had spoken up a lot sooner than I did before it really started to get bad. But unfortunately, here I sit. So if you have a problem, speak up about it.
So my last question.
Yes.
Is, tell me, I asked it in the beginning, but again, the physical feelings that you have right now, what is going, just describe it.
It feels like it's a combination of food poisoning, the flu, and getting hit by a bus. The aches and pains are pretty bad. The stomach sickness. Nighttime is the worst. Nighttime is the worst. You get, restless leg syndrome. You just can't get comfortable. You're shaking, you're sweating. You take the blanket off, you're cold. It's a back and forth fight. Tossing and turning in bed because it's the most uncomfortable feeling in the world.
And you have to get through that?
Yes.
Or make the bad decision?
Yeah, I have to get through it. I can go back and use, but eventually at some point, I'm going to have to face this. So it's not fun, but there's help out there to get through it. So.
Tim, can you think of any? Very, very brave of you to share that.
Thank you.